will be taken. But on the original order paper, we agreed that we should also take and adopt the report that has already been presented and debated by the House on the Ada Songor Lagoon salt mining program. My understanding was that we agreed to take that one too. Yes, Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there were issues with the report, and my understanding was not to adopt the report, but to make a further referral for the other committees to complete the work. Mr. Speaker, my understanding was that during the debate, it came to the fore that apparently aspects of the consideration did not find its way in the report. And so members expressed concerns and felt that the report did not actually reflect what was actually conducted. Mr. Speaker, we debated it extensively, and there were some further work we have to do. So I'm not aware that we are adopting the report in its current shape, but I'm aware that we are going to do further referral so that this matter can, the other committees can continue their work. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Chairman of the committee.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. It is rather unfortunate that a leader of the Honorable Atuforsen is saying that there are some residual matters to be considered. The mic is over. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, it's rather unfortunate that Honorable Atuforsen is intimating that there are some residual matters to be considered by the committee. There are none. As a matter of fact, people expressed their views. The mic is on. Yes. Right, Honorable Speaker, with the greatest of respect to Honorable Atuforsen, the report hasn't gotten any residual matters to be considered at all. And as is the custom of this House, when a report is presented and people have comments and they have views, those comments and views do not overthrow the report. And after the conclusion of the matter, Right Honorable Speaker said, well, you have to defer the question. But even as we are talking now, Electrochem has ceded a further 1,000 acres to the indigenes, which is to say that without the adoption of the report, they are complying with the terms of the report. So we do not see any short change that anybody has suffered. And we shouldn't try and also create an impression that here we are, we don't have anything against the report. Nevertheless, let us event some issues which are outstanding. Honorable Speaker, I do not want to be funny or dubious about this matter. There is no any outstanding issue to be determined by the committee. And if somebody is dissatisfied with the matter, that dissatisfaction is not enough, to overthrow the report, with the greatest of respect. And this is where we are. And what is on the other paper is clear, that a question should be put. But if people have any other issues, I'm a total loss as to what the issues are.
It is just probably some, maybe some political challenges, but they don't undermine the report at all. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Yes, Deputy Minority Whip.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I'm happy Parliament is still working on the Songor Lagoon issue. Mr. Speaker, as we are working on it and we have not concluded on anything, we should call Electrochem to stop the disturbances in the constituency. As I'm speaking to you this morning, they have sent soldiers, bulldozers to Aminapa, mid-year Aminapa. And the people there called this morning crying because of what is happening today in mid-year Aminapa. So we are pleading with Electrochem to hold its peace so that we can save our shrines, cemeteries, some of the villages, so that we can define exactly what is to do in the area, not to inconvenience anybody. Those shrines are our traditional shrines.
Just a minute.
Yomo, where he's now with the bulldozer to scatter everything there, has been there before all of us were born. So they should define exactly what he's supposed to do in Ada so that he should stop the inconveniences. Mr. Speaker, Ada is in our hands. Both Ada and Sege is in our hands. Whatever we would do here is what will save the people so that they can also live happily. We love investors, but not to take over and then behave as if he is rather going to consider us to give us a portion of land that belongs to us. Mr. Speaker, I know with you in the chair, the right thing will be done. All the committees that these things will be referred to should take the people into consideration and work and do diligence to the people of Ada. Mr. Speaker, we are in your hands, and we know you will save Ada. Thank you.
Yes, Majority Chief Whip.
Speaker. Okay, Speaker, if it pleases you, may I yield to the Honorable Katie Hamo, after which you grant me some space.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm happy I got in just at the nick of time to hear this debate on the Songor Lagoon matter and Petrochem issue. Mr. Speaker, I pray that in the name of Almighty God, we allow Petrochem for once to develop this massive potential of the area and for the benefit of the people and for the benefit of the whole republic. Mr. Speaker, for the time that I have known the story of this area, and that is when, Mr. Speaker, you yourself were at the university. Mr. Speaker, when you were there and who were your juniors, when Mr. Tatutikata was our lecturer, and Mr. Speaker, this matter consistently came up, and matter of Songor Lagoon, the committees, the various committees that were set up by various governments to investigate the Songor Lagoon, Mr. Speaker, till the time that it became impossible, Mr. Speaker, to develop the area. We are hearing this matter about girls who we are told are not feeling comfortable. Mr. Speaker, we have all the respect for traditional beliefs and all the traditional religions and all of that. 3 days ago, Mr. Speaker, I heard that the girls on the certain road in, I think, around the Amasama area, the girls have traveled, so we should wait for the girls to arrive before we develop, we continue with the construction of that particular segment of the road. Mr. Speaker, we understand if there is an issue with the girls around the area, you should please talk to the traditional leaders to placate them. Mr. Speaker, the Songor Lagoon area has to be developed. The intransigence of some of the inhabitants and some of the indigents, some of the people around, Mr. Speaker, it's cost this country so much. The white stuff over there, Mr. Speaker, is next to the black gold and the gold itself. Mr. Speaker, it's such an enormous deposit of natural resource that, I mean, the whole world needs the resource from Ghana. What people don't seem to appreciate, Mr. Speaker, is this. The Songor area, it's about the only area in the whole of West Africa that is gifted to the extent that it has the deposit of salt that we have. Everybody thinks that because we are all around the Gulf of Guinea area, the West Coast area, every segment of the coast has the potential to develop salt. Mr. Speaker, it's false. It doesn't work like that. God, in his own wisdom, decided that we may all be around the coast, but not every segment of the area will be so endowed. It is only the Songor area, Mr. Speaker, that is so endowed, and the whole of Africa is looking up to Ghana to develop it. Mr. Speaker, my understanding is that the potential for the place is such that we can export millions, and I'm talking about dollars, billions, not millions, dollars. And Nigeria is looking up to the place, Brazil, and all these areas, Mr. Speaker, are looking up to Songor to function so they can export and expand the petrochemical industry of the rest of Africa. As it is, Mr. Speaker, Ghana, all the West African countries are, Mr. Speaker, importing salt from the countries that I've mentioned. Salt is so crucial in the petrochemicals industry of the world that Ghana is in a position, Mr. Speaker, to contribute, and this time not a widow's mite, to contribute massively because of Songor area. Mr. Speaker, recently the president and I, his trade minister, went to the area to inaugurate that massive investment that is there in the name of the petrochem industry. There are agitations over there. In fact, we hear that there have even been loss of lives and all of that. Mr. Speaker, we pray that our colleagues accept that it is such a potential, Mr. Speaker, for employment, for income, for name them, for them as indigents, as constituents, as a part of the country, and ultimately, Mr. Speaker, for the whole of the country. Imagine the billions that we're going to obtain through the company, Mr. Speaker, into the coffers of the country. Recently, Mr. Speaker, but for the attitude of some of my colleagues, I was planning, Mr. Speaker, to put, restrictions on importation of stuff, but to encourage export. This is one commodity that Ghana has, thanks to the Almighty God, Ghana has in abundance that we intend to export. And we are told that the man cannot continue. The infighting is started again. Mr. Speaker, we will be doing ourselves no good if this particular investment of this company, Mr. Speaker, is not allowed to prosper. We plead with the people of Songor area. We plead with the MPs not only my colleague who just spoke, but all the MPs around the area. Let the petrochemical industry for once develop. Let Songor area for once develop. Let us develop the salt industry of that area to the glory of Ghana, to the glory, in fact, to the glory of your own area and the glory of Ghana, and of course to the glory of Africa and the world. We need the salt from that area. Help us. Don't undermine the process, the progress of this company. They have invested so much. We should not allow the gods to impede the progress that the company is making. If there is anything, Mr. Speaker, I plead that we sit down and then settle this matter amicably and take the gods out of this argument. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, I don't know whether you want us to reopen the debate on this matter. What was left at the end of the debate was for me to give some directives after the adoption of the report. Serious concerns were raised, and the House had the understanding there were other areas that were to be reconsidered. And so I personally spoke and said I will give directives for further engagement by the appropriate committees. Because this is not an event, it's a process. Both the indigenes and the investors are interested in what is happening in the area. They know the value of the resource, but their interests will have to be protected. For a long time, there's been a dispute, many years, and they resort to Parliament to assist them to resolve that dispute. Cannot be done in a day. And so I said I'll give directives for other committees to also intervene. There were calls for us to get the NCC to involve, to educate the people about how these things are done and the benefits to them and the country. But there were also calls about this traditional and customary and religious or spiritual preservation of cemeteries and the rest. There were also calls about security issues and also some livelihood issues. And so I said I was going to give some directives as to how Parliament should continue to engage with the parties. That is what was left. It was not to reopen the debate. Please, I'm ready with the directives, and it's quite a comprehensive one I want to do, because I'm very concerned about it myself. But if you want to have a bite, why not? I'll allow you. Can I then go to this side before I come back? Okay. When Neil Antivadopoy is an interested party in this matter, may we listen to your brother Muntaka first? Yes, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
But let's make it snappy so that we can...
Mr. Speaker, I'll try to make it very snappy. Mr. Speaker, I want to draw all of us attention to a very important thing and ask ourselves, what are we really doing? Mr. Speaker, this company had an agreement that was brought to this House. This House rectified with the terms and conditions that the company is currently operating there. Now, as a result of its operation, there were some disturbances. That led to a colleague made a statement. And then, Mr. Speaker, in your good wisdom, you directed that, can a committee go and look at those grievances? But, Mr. Speaker, with the greater respect, we could take the concerns on board, but it doesn't or cannot nullify the ratification. Because the ratification is the one that is legally bound. Mr. Speaker, I'm a member of the committee. And Mr. Speaker, we take a lot of pain to meet almost every group that mattered. Mr. Speaker, the concern I have, and I want to plead with all of us, that look, let's be careful about the things that we do and forget that we have a constitution and we have laws that govern what we are doing. We can all choose to play to emotions, but it will never develop this country. Mr. Speaker, the reason why I'm saying this is this. I have a house in Kumasi. I have a house in Accra here. If for any reason, one day, gold is found in my house, that gold is no longer mine. That is the constitution that all of us have subscribed to. That immediately the gold is found, even though that house is mine, I lose the right to extract that gold. That gold is a mineral and it's invested in only the president. And it can only be exploited when that is brought to Parliament and Parliament look at the conditions and agree that it can be exploited under this condition. Mr. Speaker, when we met our citizens, our brothers and sisters from the area, I took pain to let them appreciate that the salt that they've seen there, because of what all of us have agreed as a country, is no longer as if the salt is their personal property. The salt now belongs to all of us as a country. That is why you have Obuasi Gold Mine, you have Yineyini Bauxite, you have other deposits in Kenya and other areas. If people in those areas all rise up and say that, no, this gold that you find here, because it is Obuasi, it is only for Asantehene, will be finished as a country. And we pleaded with them. Every single concern, Mr. Speaker, that they raise, check into the report. I'm worried that a lot of people do not read the report in full. Because, Mr. Speaker, when we made the company, we said that, yes, when the ratification came to this house, we were expecting that maybe our colleagues in that area would have given us some more insight that could have helped us in the ratification. Even though that did not happen, one, we were pleading with them, they should help protect the cemetery. They agreed that they would do it. We said that there were some sacred areas. They should help even develop it. The company agreed that they would do it. We know that you have the right, just like Newmont, Bogoso, Goldfield, just like Anglogo Asante, but because the people were used to using this salt, can you help in trying to create an area where they can also export so that they are not worse off? The company agreed. Mr. Speaker, I want to plead with my colleagues. Let's not use, because that's exactly what you said some few minutes earlier. We are leaders. We are not followers. And in leading, sometimes you have to take a very difficult decision to explain to your people that, look, because of this thing that's happening, that is what has happened in Obuasi, that is what is happening in Kenya, that is what is happening in Bogoso, that is what is happening in Takwa. So, Ada cannot be an exclusion. Because if we do that, we'll be running our country into a chaos. But because of the challenges that you are having, these are the measures that we can put to assist you so that you don't get worse off. And Mr. Speaker, if you see the elaborate things that the company is willing to do to support the livelihood of the indigenes, Mr. Speaker, it is proven, and we've checked, many of them who were already there are better off under this arrangement than when they were doing the galamsey. But Mr. Speaker, the challenge we are having is that there were some people who decided to turn themselves into kingpins galamseyers. And for them, Mr. Speaker, it is difficult to wake them, because if somebody is pretending to sleep, you cannot easily wake somebody who is pretending to sleep. And I will take this opportunity to quote what former Vice President of America said, Mr. Speaker, that how can they understand when their source of livelihood depend on not understanding? People were there looting their salt and destroying the place, and they were making a lot of millions out of it. How do you think that you can explain and convince them that now this is for the whole country, including you, and the rest of us are going to benefit from it, they will resist. And in doing that, they want to do vandalism. They want to use distraction. And that's the worry. But Mr. Speaker, if you look at the report, I want to plead with my colleagues, the two MPs, the MP for the Honorable Doyo and Honorable Christian Otote, please team up with the company and get the kings, mediate between them. Because the things that we put for the company to assist the indigenous, and they've agreed, I want to believe, with dialogue, we'll be able to even do more. But we cannot stop them from operating because we've already rectified. As a country, as a parliament, we already rectified the thing. And we gave them the go-ahead to invest. So you cannot, in one hand, give the right to a company to go and invest. And in the another hand, you are saying that because there's noise, please pull back. It doesn't work out that way. You only hope to see what you can do to stabilize the situation. So I want to plead with my colleagues that, look, even this report, I ask myself, whether adopted or not adopted, how does it affect the ratification? It doesn't affect the ratification in any way. But adopting it will mean the recommendation the committee made will be a basis to see how we can engage the company so the company can help. So, Mr. Speaker, without laboring this, I was a member of the committee, and I want to say, I know the importance of safeguarding the citizens around the project. And we should also remember, it is not for eternity. Parliament ratified the agreement, giving it a duration. After those durations, they have to come back for ratification again. And that gives us another opportunity to look at how they've been operating during the period of the release. And if there's the need to make amendments, Parliament just get the opportunity to incorporate those new amendments. But once you've given somebody the rectified document to go and implement, how do you hold that person? Let's be careful about investment, drive, and projects that we bring into our country. And when there are challenges upon a little agitation, we want to throw the company under the bus. We need to provide leadership. And in providing leadership, we need to have in mind that there's constitution that we have to adhere to. There are laws that govern what we are doing, and we should be able to explain that to people. But so long as we keep telling the people that, oh, don't worry, we are going to get it reversed, we are going to get it reversed, you are simply agitating them. But believe me, with a greater respect, with the ratification that Parliament has done, people sometimes say, oh, if another government can, you can do it. I've been in this house long enough to tell you that when something is ratified by Parliament, nobody can change it unless you bring it back to Parliament. And we know how difficult that is. So I want to plead that let's try and dialogue and get the people benefit as much as possible. And even before the implementation, the report being adopted, the company has already gone ahead to start, implementing some of the report. I want this House to adopt this report, and then we keep an eye. Let the committee keep an eye on some of the challenges, and Mr. Speaker, like you rightly said, this is not a one-day thing that you can just solve all of it at a go. The project has just started. It has a huge dream for all of us as people. It is not only about people in Ada or Greater Accra. It's about all of us. It is about this country. And you cannot pretend as a leader who knows what is right to say that you're going to play to the gallery because some small section of people are not happy. You find a way of explaining to them and make them appreciate the dream that goes with it and how it can benefit all of us. And Mr. Speaker, I can assure you, if the recommendation that we have put together with what the company is doing is followed step by step, in the long run, the people of Ada are going to be the larger beneficiaries, and they'll be far better off than the current arrangement that is there. And that should be the concern. But if somebody tells you that because I'm the landowner, give me everything, that's not how our constitution has structured it. And that's why I gave the example of even my own house. If I find a mineral there, that mineral is no longer mine. It's for the state, and it's only the state that can determine how it will be exploited. So with this comment, Mr. Speaker, I will hope that you give the direction that will help us to support businesses that are doing the right thing. Where we have rectified, if we didn't have a rectification, Mr. Speaker, I'll be the first to champion anything that will stop the government from doing what they are doing. But once you rectify something, and based on your rectification, people go to source for money, and they are not investing, and you turn around again, the same parliament that has given them the right to invest will turn around again and say that, don't do this, don't do that. What are you doing to your country? You are not the only country on the planet. You are not the only, country that has resources. You'll be making your country a destination that people will not want to invest. And I don't think that's what we want to do. So, Mr. Speaker, with this, I want us to take emotions out of this and look at the rationality of what we have done. The ratification is already done. The committee has made a lot of recommendations that could be helpful. And the company has even agreed that even though this is not part of the ratification, we are willing to assist. Let's capitalize on that and be able to make progress. With this, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you for the opportunity to have contributed.
Yes, Majority Chief Whip.
Speaker, I can say that my good friend, Honorable Muntaka, ushered me into whip or whipping. I've always respected him for his sense of patriotism and how strongly he has often stood for the right thing and the welfare of the Ghanaian people and, of course, Parliament as a whole. But today, my respect to him has gone up, 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 up. And I have to say it. I listed all my points, and most of the points I listed, he spoke to it. So let me start off with the legal imperatives. This is a law-making chamber. Whichever way you view it, that is our constitutional mandate. We make laws. It's well defined by our constitution. To the extent that the investor has come to this house and gotten its investment or the terms ratified by this house, we have to be careful. And we must navigate within the provisions of our constitution. That one is so basic that it's not debatable. Speaker, the last time the Honorable Atacha presented a report, for the past 2 months, personally, I have been to Songor and I have been investigating this said company. Facts, is the biggest salt investment in the whole of West Africa. It's the biggest. Now, this investor is one of our own. He's a Ghanaian, a full-blooded Ghanaian. Apart from that, he also hails from Songor, that vicinity. That is where he comes from. Speaker, many big investors have been to this place and they've abandoned the place. The Dangotes and all the big investors you can name in Africa, they've been there. They couldn't succeed. They left. Packed bag and baggage and left. It took one of our own. A Ghanaian, to go through all difficulties and to be where the company, to move the company to where it is now. Now, we cannot push away the concerns of the minority. Because my investigation proved to me that more than 90% of the chiefs, the traditional leaders, are in support of this investment. I'm telling you, more than 90% of the traditional leadership of Songor are in support of this investment. We are not wishing away the concerns of so-called minority. Some of the citizens who are raising issues, and the issues are raising are to the extent that they also want to have access to the resource. They also want to have access to the resource. Read the report well. The Honorable Atacha's report, read it well. Probably the Honorable Atacha may have to make more copies of his report to members on the other side who doesn't seem to be in support. get a copy of this report. And you'll be amazed at the recommendation. And in fact, interestingly, many of the recommendations are already being enforced. Work in progress. They're already being enforced. So, Speaker, we don't need to belabor the point. I can understand the Member of Parliament and colleagues who hail from that area. You are concerned about welfare issues, some of the indigents who also want to have access to the resource. This is a genuine concern. But don't forget that the investor has a legal mandate. And, Speaker, Electrochem has gone to the extent of making available some of the land available to some of the citizens to also invest. Invest there and also benefit from there. You can check the report. I don't lie. Speak to the microphone. I'll respond to you. Speaker, restoration of the Songor itself for many years, protracted conflict for over 50 years. Nobody went to their aid. It took Electrochem to go there and take all these risks and invest such huge amount of money. We cannot just discount this investment. So, Speaker, most of the points I was going to raise, the Honorable Muntaka has raised them. What the Member of Parliament and colleagues who are concerned about this investment, probably because of the proximity of their constituency to the area, you should engage Electrochem. Engage Electrochem so that the other concerns, other dissenting views that are coming up can be dealt with. But to say that the investor should be stopped, we don't have, first of all, we don't have the mandates. We have no legal basis to stop them. If there are issues that are genuinely of concern to the people, let's raise them. Let's raise this issue and ensure that they are resolved. Speaker, let me conclude on the benefit of salt. You can just take your phone, Google the benefit of salt, and the benefits, the other ancillary benefit that can accrue from this investment. I plead with colleagues in the name of God. I plead. This is the biggest salt investment in the whole of West Africa. We cannot just wish it away. For once, let's support one of our own. I'm sure if it had been somebody else who is not a Ghanaian, probably, we will be speaking good of this investment. This is one of our own. Let's support Electrochem. And I have no doubt that the directive, the consequential directive that the Speaker will give eventually will be a one that will help to transform the company, to sustain the company and not to destroy it, and also ensure that there is mutual benefit, both to the citizens of Songor and, of course, the company has a legal mandate to invest there. Speaker, I want to thank you, personally want to thank you for the wisdom you have shepherded this whole matter up to this point, and particularly thank the Honorable Atachi and the committee, the entire committee, and the leadership of the committee for the trouble they've taken to go through all this investigation, and also the first deputy who presided when the matter came up. Thank you all for the support, and finally urge my colleagues on the other side to support the adoption of this report. And as the Speaker indicated, it is not going to end today. It is going to be work in progress for a very long time to come. And we can put on our oversight hat and ensure that the company does what is legal, what is important, and what is beneficial to the people of this country. So with these words, I want to thank you for the space granted.
Yes, Ni.
Speaker. Honorable Speaker. No, he's had his turn already. You see,
he's going
we are debating a report, so that you've had your turn already. It's not a ping-pong. Honorable Speaker, I had my turn and I can't talk.
But you are not the speaker. Are you the speaker?
I'm drawing his attention to
Are you the speaker?
When we are debating a report, it's not a ping pong. We want to have, I mean, how many bites at the cherry?
Try this.
You were speaker and you spoke before.
And I think the speaker may have put off all of them.
Why? You think we are doing before? Why should we be doing that? They should let me read the report again. Why? Why are you doing?
Why are you duty? Why are you duty?
Honorable member, you were in the house when I raised the issue, and I wanted a feedback from the house as to whether they want to reopen and make comments. And the feedback I got was yes. And so I've allowed a number of members to make comments again. The fact that he made comment the other day doesn't prevent him from doing so today. It doesn't prevent you from doing so today. How can you create the impression that the speaker is not in charge? What? No. The impression. I have not said you said. I use the word impression. I will not allow anybody to erode my authority. Not that of the speaker. That will be the end of this house. Please.
Speaker, I apologize. I didn't get a sense that we can talk again. Then I'll have my turn.
Yes, if you want to, I'll give you.
Previously. He did. And I thought it's not painful.
I had already indicated that what I know at the end of the debate was for me to give directives. But the way leadership themselves wanted to talk. So I put the question to the House. And that is what the House said they wanted to do.
Mr. Speaker, I apologize. I didn't understand it that way. Because he's been speaking for so long. The man who was writing.
Please. You are a senior member and you know how we respect each other. So
thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
As I said, be snappy.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Mr. Speaker, yes, I agree with you. The last time we touched on this issue, we came to the conclusion that the protection of livelihoods was paramount to this House. As leaders and as people who have been voted for by people, the interests of those people should be our primary concern. The international human rights community even talks about the protection of indigenous people in circumstances as this. Indigenous people have rights. They have freedoms. And such freedoms and rights cannot just be trampled upon in the name of investment. The people of Ada, the chiefs and people of Ada, appreciate the investment that is coming to the Songor area. In fact, contrary to the perception of the majority whip, all the people who have invested in the Ada Songor salt have been Ghanaians. If you care to know, you haven't heard of the name Apente before. Vacuum salt, Songor salt, all those investments were spearheaded by Ghanaian local businessmen. So it is not new. We are not against a Lotrochem. The people of Ada are not against the investment, but a ratification of an investment like this that do not take into consideration the protection of livelihoods, heritage sites, and also the indigenous people cannot be said to be in the interest of the people. Never. We don't have any problem with Parliament ratifying it, but Parliament cannot ratify an agreement which goes and plays against the interest of the indigenous people and their livelihoods. So investment, so our heritage sites, which the United Nations itself has declared that needed to be protected, should be wiped off. This is what we are talking about. We are not against the investment. But what we are saying is that investment cannot be at the expense of the livelihoods and the sustainability of human beings. Because that's the only way we can maintain and sustain peace in the area. And please, don't let it be lost on us. People are being killed. As it happened in Nigeria with the Ogoni tribe area on the oil, we don't want that to happen in Ghana. Consistently, Electrochem is abusing human rights, violating the freedoms of people, and also pushing beyond the limit. Mr. Speaker, we sitting here, excuse my language, we are not more intelligent than the technical committee that was put in place by the Rawlings regime, by the Kufuor regime, by the Atamils regime. All these people advised that the protected area for commercial investment must be there, and also the 11,000 hectares must be there for the indigenous people so that we can continue to sustain indigenous livelihoods. But when you have an investment who has come in and want to take all the 42,000, where are the people also going to live? Where are they going to live? If you are talking about collaboration, fine. Why do we have mining companies in some areas and also have small-scale miners? Why do we have small-scale miners and have mining companies in Obuasi, in Takwa, and all those places? Why do we have them? Why is it different from the people of Adan? That the people of Adan, the small-scale miners of the Adan area, of the Songor area, must be denied their right to also exist? So we are not against the investment. What we are talking about is investing in a condition where peace and sustainability will be preserved. That's what we're talking about. My honorable member of parliament for Adan and for Sege are not talking about the fact that we don't want Electrochem to exist. Far from that. We have no problem with Electrochem. But what we are saying is that the livelihoods of the people must be protected. The sustainability of our small-scale industries must be protected. And the Minister for Trade and Industry sitting here and encouraging a situation whereby small-scale industries will be killed in the name of a monopoly. This is not right.
He didn't mention your name.
It's not right.
He didn't mention his name. He said a minister.
Whatever benefits you think will come to the people cannot be equated with what they themselves can generate and live on. So all that we are saying, Mr. Speaker, all that we are saying is that, yes, we are saying that this report must look into the issues of preservation of our heritage sites, the protection of the human rights of the people, and also making sure that livelihoods are protected by the encouragement of the small-scale investors in the salt area. That's what we are talking about, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much.
Mr. Speaker, he mentioned my name. Can I?
Sorry.
He mentioned my name.
He mentioned your name.
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Nobody mentioned his name. Nobody mentioned his
name. You think I can? Mr. Speaker, he did mention my name. Everybody heard it. He heard it.
Nobody
mentioned your name.
Nobody mentioned.
Well, listen to something. If you don't comprehend English properly, he said the Minister of Trade and Industry is sitting there and.
But you don't have the floor.
I know you are making a point. Mr. Speaker, I happen on this occasion to be the only Minister for Trade and Industry in Ghana.
Please resume your seats. Honorable Minister for Trade and Industry.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Can I make my point?
Yes.
Please? Thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, he just made an outrageous statement. The honorable member for the Rio who just spoke. Mr. Speaker, I've been on my feet advocating the essentials of the industry and all the things that I've spoken about. Everybody has heard me in the country. He made the outrageous statement that I am encouraging the disinvestment of small-scale industries in Ghana when I'm the champion of small, medium scales in Ghana. What is it that I said today which gives him the impression that I am asking for small-scale industry not to develop? What, Mr. Speaker, I have been saying that for all these years that Songor hasn't been developing, hasn't been progressing, and it hasn't worked because Songor has been sabotaged by some specific individuals. This is the occasion where a Ghanaian indigenous is involved, so we should give him the space to develop. That's all I've said, Mr. Speaker. I haven't talked about not allowing small industry.
I've heard you now.
Thank you. Thank you very much. But, Mr. Speaker, please, I need an apology and retraction from him.
I'm going to him.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Well, he said, your submission, Honorable Neil Lamte van der Poel, created a different impression. Is that impression that he disagrees with? What do you say to that?
The minister got me wrong.
Well, Minister, you've heard him clear and loud that you got him wrong. So we let it.
So doesn't he have to say what he said so that you can determine whether I got him wrong?
I did listen to him.
He said
I did listen to him. I did not get the impression that you got. That is why I gave you the opportunity to say. And the impression that you got and what you have articulated is that he has created the impression that you are not in support of small, medium scale.
It wasn't impression. He said it clearly. Those were his words. Everybody heard it. That's clearly what he said.
He said it.
Everyone, get the transcript. Your transcript writers are here. He said it openly. Mr. Speaker, he didn't give it to any impression. He gave it oral advocacy. He said it.
Well, I didn't hear that, so I'll refer to the transcript, and then later on we'll come back to it. But
thank you very
please,
much.
let's move on. Can I take one or two, and then we bring finality to this matter? Yes, I'll come to you. Yes, so one from this side, Honorable Suhini.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to comment on this very important issue. Mr. Speaker, I'm sorry I may have to take you and the House a little back because
Honorable Member, you will not have the comfort of time to take
I'll try,
back.
Mr. Speaker, but it is important that...
No, because I'll have to manage the time.
Okay, sir. Okay. Mr. Speaker, the point is that you made the referral to the Joint Committee of Parliament because at the time, this House was in a transition process to form new committees. Mr. Speaker, the Joint Committee that was tasked to consider this controversial matter because of the conflict our earlier decision had generated in the area were the Lands and Forestry Committee and the Mines and Energy Committee. Mr. Speaker, along the line, the new committees were formed. You, however, directed that those committees with business referred to them, especially the joint ones, should finish whatever business that they were doing. Mr. Speaker, we therefore continued to engage. Mr. Speaker, but I want to put it on record that the so-called report of the Joint Committee is an individual member's report. Mr. Speaker, it is an individual member's report and not a committee of the joint, or not the Joint Committee that was tasked to look at this matter. Mr. Speaker, I have evidence on my phone where even this report was prepared before meetings of the committee ended. The report was prepared before even the committee finished the consideration. Mr. Speaker, we were called upon as members of the two committees to help the House resolve the conflict that was emanating between a private interest a business interest and the people of Adan. Mr. Speaker, first and foremost, Parliament is constituted by people who represent the public interest. We represent people. And so when the people we represent are affected by the decisions that we take, and then they raise the issues, it is important that we give them a fair hearing and a fair platform. Mr. Speaker, from day one, the individual who presented this report, and not on behalf of the committee, had made it clear at our meetings that the people needed education, and that once they were educated, the private person will go ahead and do his business. But Mr. Speaker, the records didn't show that the people needed only education, because clearly there were people in the community, leaders in the community, who initially were in support of the operations of this company, but later decided to change their minds because the agreements and the understanding they had initially had changed. And so you cannot dismiss their concerns if they initially supported it based on a certain understanding that had changed. It was important for this House to take our time and look at the reasons that have given cause to the, changing positions of some of the community members. Mr. Speaker, the records, for example, show that the application for the lots were different. Whilst in the initial stage, the business entity was aiming at just getting 1 or 2 lots and allowing and helping the community to use the other lot to support community mining. In the end, the business interests annexed all the lots, and it is now affecting even the communities that live within these mining areas. They have their shrines in these mining areas. They have in fact, they have their homes in these mining areas. And according to them, when we met with them, even when they go out, in some cases of their homes, they are attacked because they are said to be encroaching on mining areas. Mr. Speaker, we cannot dismiss these concerns. We know that salt, and for that matter, the resource there does not belong to the people of Adan. It belongs to the people of Ghana. We appreciate that. We understand that. But because of their proximity to that mineral resource, its mining should not deny them of their livelihood. It should not deny them of their existence. It should not deny them of their cultural values. And so, Mr. Speaker, I once again want to make the point that at the time that this report was prepared, I had become ranking member of the Lands and Natural Resources Committee. And at no point did the committee meet to agree on the report that was filed. At no point did the committee meet, the joint committee meet, to agree on the report that was filed. And I'm saying that, Mr. Speaker, I have evidence of this report being prepared even before the last 2 meetings of the joint committee. I had to impress on the chairman to allow for the committee to finish its meetings before we can all edit that report and decide if we have to, change it or improve upon it. Only for the chairman, because maybe he is not minded by the fact that he will be returning to this House, he seems not to care that much about the integrity of members of this House, Mr. Speaker. I apologize if that is offensive. But, Mr. Speaker, those of us who still have an interest, in how Parliament works, must ensure that tomorrow,
Honorable Member,
when
please,
we are...
Honorable Member, let me listen to the chairman. Let me listen to the chairman, because I myself feel that you've gone beyond the rules. Yes, chairman.
Honorable Speaker, a very funny impression is being created that a report is my handiwork.
Right.
In information that the report is mine and I engineered it. It's unfortunate. I have the ranking here. My good friend John Apo will confirm. Now, what was Honorable Mutaka speaking to? You've not read the report, and that's why most of the issues are. If you've read the report, you realize that there is no concern that was not captured at all. And you wouldn't stand here and think that, oh, out of the blue, I engineered a report. For what end? Honorable Speaker, the kind of foul imputation that, as if I ignored the entire committee, including my ranking was here, Honorable Mutaka, and all the giants on the committee, and I put together a committee to satisfy what end. We should withdraw it. As if this is a fraud of a report. It's not. It is the thinking of the most people. And if you believe that this report is distasteful to you, it's up to you. But what is it in the report that is your concern that has not been captured? Mr. Speaker, let me show, for instance, we are advising that anywhere that you find a fetish place, they shouldn't desecrate it. It is in the report you've not read. And don't come and exhibit this ignorance and try to impute ill motives to me as if out of the blue I conjured a report to come and deceive this house.
Honorable Chairman, your point is well made. Honorable Member, you need to withdraw the statement that are talking about fraud and all those things. That definitely.
Mr. Speaker, my position was not out of ignorance, as he is suggesting. Mr. Speaker, my position remains true. And my position is that the report that has been filed, and I'm happy he has made reference to the ranking at the time on mines and energy. He will admit, and he's right here, that when we had our last meeting, he had suggested that we should be allowed as the new committees to prepare a report. And that the joint committee should, be dissolved into one so that we can do a report. So he did not even attend our last meeting. But I'm sure he was busy dealing with some other business. But the chairman of the Mines and Energy Committee did. And I also did with my chairman of the Lands and Forestry Committee. Mr. Speaker, after that meeting, we expected that we will all get copies of a draft report so that we can all make inputs to that draft report. Mr. Speaker, none was shared. Only for us, in fact, Mr. Speaker, I was far away in Tamale when the NDC was about to launch its national campaign, and I was part of the organizing committee. When I heard that the chairman was presenting a report, Mr. Speaker, if the honorable chairman has any contrary version of the way things happened, he should state so. I am not accusing him of fraud. I am simply stating what happened. And I'm saying that after our last meeting, no report had been generated and shared among the committee members to make input or to consider. The only thing we heard was that the chairman was presenting a report. And when I checked, I realized it was the same report he prepared before the last two committee meetings were held. And these are facts, Mr. Speaker. And if it shows that it amounts to fraud, I am not accusing him of it. It is the act. Thank you, Father.
By your own presentation, before you, a member of the new committee got to the earlier joint committee, they had prepared a draft report. That was your presentation. You are now adding that you were a member of it. But earlier on, what you stated is that you met a report. That is the new committee. Please, will you listen to me? I listen to you. And you are referring to Honorable Jinapo. Yes, a member of the Mines and Energy Committee who is aware that this draft report was there before the new committee was asked to take over. That is your presentation. And now, at the end of the day, you are saying that from what the chairman presented is that old draft report, not what has been prepared by the new joint committee. So that cannot be ascribed as the report of the chairman. You cannot say that. It doesn't add up. Please, that is why I said you should withdraw. If you said that is not the report of the new joint committee, you are right. But to ascribe that to the chairman alone, that definitely is unfair.
Mr. Speaker, you know I cherish your guidance a lot. And maybe in my earlier presentation, I wasn't clear enough. But Mr. Speaker, I have been part of the committee from day one, because I was the deputy ranking of the Lands and Forestry Committee at the time you made the referral to the joint committee. So from the first meeting of the joint committee, I have been part of the process. And the chairman will bear me out that I never missed a meeting. And I was actively part of the deliberations from day one. But by the time that we were finalizing our meetings, I had become the ranking of the Lands and Natural Resources. I had been promoted to be ranking. I have to add that, Mr. Speaker. I had been promoted to be ranking. And then Honorable John Jinapo had also been promoted to another committee. Yes, but elevated to another committee. And so he didn't think that it was even prudent for us to continue with the joint system. But I reminded him that you had given the direction that the old committees should finish their business. So we cooperated with the chairman. And then but at that time, Mr. Speaker, I'm saying that at that time, he had already done a draft report. He had done a draft report, but I pleaded with him.
Are you saying the committee, the joint committee, has done a draft report, or the chairman has done a draft report?
Mr. Speaker, to be honest with you, the chairman had done a draft report, because I was with it from day one, and he shared it with me. Mr. Speaker, I read the draft report, and I said that it was not entirely bad, but it was important for us to listen to all the stakeholders and finish our meetings before we can conclude on the report, which he agreed. He said. And it was based on that prompting that we scheduled 2 other meetings, which we held. And after those 2 meetings, we were going to now look at the final report. I did not want initially to dismiss the draft he gave, but I thought that it could be enhanced and improved based on what we were hearing from the stakeholders. Mr. Speaker, only for me to hear, whilst I was far away in Tamale, that he was presenting that draft report that I did not, because of your guidance and your wisdom that has always helped me, antagonize him with, even though I had problems with it. But I still wanted to follow it to the end, so that we could enhance and enrich that report. So, Mr. Speaker, the facts are as I have presented it. And I am not accusing anybody of any wrongdoing. But if it looks like it, then it is what it is, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much.
Honorable members, leadership gave you some small space, but it's now being abused. The whole issue has been reopened, and it's a debate, but we have other business to transact. So do I take it away from them, leadership?
Speaker, this matter is a very important matter, and we are all passionate about it. May I suggest, and I'm sure my colleague will also speak in support, that we take one apiece, one, and that will be it. We'll draw the curtains. Speaker, one comment from each side, and we draw the curtains on same matter.
Yes, please.
Position canvassed by the majority whip, except to say that, Mr. Speaker, you have given members enough time. I can't hear anything new coming from anybody. Mr. Speaker, I would recommend that you just give a directive on this matter. Nobody is going to say anything which is any new information. Mr. Speaker, this is a recall for critical business. We have done more than 1 hour on this, and the passion is just going up and up. Mr. Speaker, from my back, I can hear people saying that we should adjourn the House in the day almost right now because there's no more critical business to be done. So, Mr. Speaker, for the House not to degenerate once again, Mr. Speaker, I think you should just give the directive and adjourn the House. No suspension. Oh, yes, because I can't hear. Mr. Speaker, yes, Mr. Speaker, we come here to do critical business. And then everybody on this side is passionate. In fact, the other side is speaking as if this was the reason they recalled us. Mr. Speaker, give the direction and we see. Mr. Speaker, there's nobody here who has said anything new, which I didn't hear when we were having the last meeting. Mr. Speaker, so let's conclude on this. What we expect, Mr. Speaker, is your directive. That is what matters. Colleagues have spoken twice, 3 times.
Honorable members, because of the nature of the subject matter, I decided to relax the rules. But to be frank with you, the language and passion that is being exhibited is carried from the ground and not reflected in you as leaders. What you're talking about could incite the stakeholders or partners to do other things that are not intended by you because of the language and passion that you are exhibiting here. The directives that I was going to give, and I'll give them, are meant to create avenues and opportunities for some of these issues that you are raising to be resolved as we go along. That is why I premised my statement by saying that this is not an event, it's a process. It will take time for us to lead them to resolve their outstanding issues. It has been a long-standing conflict. As a result of that, it has come to Parliament to lead. And that is what I intend doing. But you insisted you wanted to make comments, and you reopened the whole debate, and not even being sensitive to that, the fragile nature of the conflict. That is my worry. And so I will not even grant the 1 each. I will proceed to give the directives. Enough is enough. Honorable members, clearly what has happened shows that there's still a lot of work to be done. And I want to give you a bit of what has brought us here before giving the directives. You all recall, on 6th November 2020, this House ratified 3 mining lease agreements that validated the salt mining undertaking by Electrochem Ghana Limited in the Adan Songor Lagoon for a term of 15 years in accordance with Article 9681 of the Constitution. The House will again recall that the issue of salt mining at the Songor Lagoon was brought to our attention following a clash between small-scale miners and officials of Electrochem Ghana Limited, which resulted in the death of a miner. The matter was subsequently referred to a joint committee on energy and lands and forestry, later on reconstituted to energy, lands, and natural resources to investigate and report back to the House. The terms of reference set for the committee were: 1, review the contracts ratified by Parliament on 6 November 2020. 2, visit the Songor Lagoon site. And 3, advise on the possibility of renegotiating the contract to allow small-scale mining by the local indigenes. So these were the terms of reference to the committee. On the 26th of July, 2024, the committee delivered its report to the House and made a lot of recommendations in the report, which I'm going to put for your adoption. A very comprehensive report was submitted by the committee with a lot of recommendations. Following the presentation of the report, members of the House raised several concerns regarding its contents and recommendations. These concerns include, but not limited to what I'm going to say: 1, a failure to visit the site, which, according to the report, the committee members had postponed until, quote, later on, contrary to the terms of reference given to the committee. That was one I identified myself when I read the report. 2, inadequate stakeholder consultation, specifically, unacknowledged papers on the matter, and as such, these were not reflected in the report. And I will name some of them. 1, paper submitted to Parliament by Third World Network Africa on the Electrochem project in the Songor Lagoon and related matters, dated 5th December 2023. That was not reflected in the report. 2, paper submitted by one Mr. Francis Menu Adabo, Member of Parliament for Ahafo and North South East. That too was not reflected in the report. Again, inadequate redress to some issues, such as the area of land available to Electrochem Ghana Limited, since a large part of the concession has been encumbered. Again, the issues that the people keep on raising, dealing with unemployment, were still not well addressed in the recommendations. We also had the delayed investigations into the deaths resulting from the confrontations between Electrochem and the people of Ada. That was also not properly dealt with by the committee's report. After that, as Speaker, I had to receive responses from the stakeholders because they insisted that they had to talk to me. And so we had a group called Ada Songor Lagoon Association appear before me to express dissatisfaction with the current form of the report. I had a delegation of chiefs, queens, and queen mothers and indigents come to draw my attention to the benefits they were getting from the investment of Electrochem Ghana Limited. From this report and the submissions made by the stakeholders, I could discern some concerns, and I'm going to raise these concerns. One, the report missed the opportunity to address some issues. One is the legitimacy of additional lease agreements allegedly held, I use the word allegedly because it's not being established, held by Electrochem. Specifically mentioned were those covering Adan West and East and Adan East, amounting to 140,000 acres. Two, further, the original concession was limited to 7,186 acres for the Adan West area, pertaining solely to the Adan Salt Project, formerly known as the Vacuum Salt Project. However, in addition to the original concession, the Adan Salt Association assessed that Electrochem has forcefully taken over an additional 5,814 acres of adjoining lands, and it included villages, cemeteries, and sacred sites, bringing the total land under Electrochem control to 41,000 acres. The report mentioned that 1,000 acres were given to the indigents for their use for survival. But as I stated earlier, the report did not go to establish what area, what land was now available for the company. Because apart from what the company has given to the indigents, they talk about the cemeteries, the sacred sites, and villages. And the company is being prevented from having access to those areas. So what acreage is left for the company? There was another stakeholder group called Dangbe East Salt Producers Association. And they had also measured the disputed leases. And their intent was to use the lands for brine extraction for their salt farming businesses. These were not addressed by the report of the committee. The other issue that came out was a conflict between the 1992 Constitution and the PNDC Law 287. That is also unresolved, which meant that there's still a lot of work to be done. Honorable members, some concerns were further expressed by both the indigents and the company. We have to look at how to address the issues of the cemeteries, which they are alleging that they are being desecrated, the fetish priests who also came up, the cultural sites, and also issues of human rights. Honorable members, this site is also a heritage site. It's not just free land. And the United Nations has recognized that. And so I want to take this opportunity to encourage us as the representatives of the people and the leaders of our people. They are relying on us for a resolution of this seemingly permanent dispute. I am going to give these directives based on this understanding. 1, the validity of the additional lease agreements for Ada West and East, covering a total of 140 acres, has to be looked into. The application and relevance of PNDC Law 287 and its implications for Electrochem Ghana Limited leases and future operations in the lagoon by the investor. We have to look at it. The issue of compensation for affected parties. That is an outstanding issue that has not been well addressed. And so there is a need for further engagement with stakeholders in this matter. And the stakeholders, if the committee had gone aground, would have identified all of them, but they include the Ada Salt Association, some community leaders, traditional authorities, and other stakeholders. I will want you to engage further to ensure a fair, transparent, and peaceful resolution of this dispute. And so I direct that the Committee on Lands and Natural Resources continue to engage the parties to establish the area of concession now available to the investor. The investor, as of now, is not sure as to what or which area he could go or not go, because there's been a lot of encroachment, and the people have identified a lot of areas they call sacred cemeteries, and even though he has invested, he cannot have access to those areas. It has to be established, and we are the people better positioned to mediate in this matter. 2, we have to look at the livelihoods of the local communities, particularly the small-scale salt mining group. And so I direct the Committee on Employment, Labor Relations, and Pensions to engage with the stakeholders to try to resolve this matter. There are a lot of outstanding welfare issues they have to look at. As much as the company is concerned about the area that they've given to them, they are not satisfied. And so with your mediation, you could solve the differences between the parties. 3, the cultural and spiritual significance of the lands involved. To mention a few, the cemeteries, the sacred sites, and the traditional spaces. I want the committee, and I direct the Committee on Chieftaincy, Cultural, and Religious Affairs, and the Committee on Defense and Interior to get involved and to continue to engage to solve out the outstanding issues. Honorable members, the commitment of this Parliament to the people definitely is very paramount. But it's part of our commitment to attract investment into the country to assist us take care of the living standards of the people. But we must ensure that all actions taken by investors and our people reflect, at the end of the day, the will of the people and our adherence to the principle of justice, equity, and the rule of law. The investor has to be protected to continue with the deployment of the development of the project and be assured of his fair investment returns in the project, sorry. But above all, we represent the interests of our people, and that is paramount. And so the committees I have mentioned, please, this is a standing directive. Visit the area, the site, the people, and engage with them as leaders, not as combatants. The debate has been carried on as if you are part and parcel of the parties. You are not. You are to create the avenue for a peaceful settlement of this long-standing dispute. We know the importance of the mineral, salt. We know that even Nigeria here, they import salt from Brazil instead of from Ghana. We know that even our bones are made of salt. And so it's so important that if we allow good investment into the salt mining alone in Ghana, Ghana stands to develop from it. But because of this dispute, we are unable to do so. So this House must not fail the people. And so I direct the committees to continue to engage. I myself am available to support the committees in this direction. With this, honorable members, I put the question. And the question is that, subject to the directives being given, Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, we learn at your feet and we make suggestions to you. Considering the nature of your directive, I submit in all humility. You can't hear me? Mr. Speaker, I submit in all humility that considering the nature of your directive, a decision on this matter will not suffice, respectfully. Mr. Speaker, you made very broad and far-reaching orders. It is not a matter for a question at this stage. If that is really your intent, that you want the matter to be properly concluded. So I hold a view most humbly and without prejudice to your experience and your understanding of the issues, that we should rather see it as work in progress. Because, Mr. Speaker, the real import of what you have said so far.
Honorable Majority Leader,
Mr. Speaker,
this is where I have a problem. Exactly the term I used when you were not on your seat. Work in progress. That was what I stated here.
I'm not challenging you with respect, Mr. Speaker. You said you were putting a question. I'm not, Mr. Speaker, when I'm not seated, I monitor proceedings with respect. I use my phone, or maybe I'm doing something administrative. A lot of memos come and I have to minute and members will be putting pressure. Yes, I do. Mr. Speaker, I do.
Whilst working on memos.
Mr. Speaker, I do. Yes, Mr. Speaker, that is true. It's a fact. Multitasking. You are signing and then you are watching because it's loud.
You
Mr. Speaker,
see,
all I'm saying that I'm only
guiding.
guiding.
You can be looking in that direction, but you are not seeing anything.
Mr. Speaker, well, Mr. Speaker, let's move to the main issue. Mr. Speaker, the point here is, to the extent that you have made a declaration that this is work in progress, and you've made some orders, I hold a view, in all modesty, that we cannot take a decision subject to the directions. We cannot. So let your direction, the orders be carried. Than to say that we should take a decision subject to. There cannot be anything conclusive and then we move on again to do something else. The motion cannot be adopted in its form because members have attacked the work of my respected senior, Honorable Atachia. He said that their work is conclusive.
Honorable Majority Leader, with all due respect, I've taken note of that and I've been addressed, I commended the report. But you know, when you go through the report, you see copious recommendations. Those recommendations are relevant to these directives I've given. Without those recommendations, these directives have no leg to stand on. I have not agreed with the criticisms of the report. But I have come out clearly to indicate that the report did not cover some areas. And I identified all those issues and said there was still work in progress. And so these committees will continue to engage the parties. And so I want the report, the statement I made was the report to be adopted because of the recommendations and other findings as contained in the report. If you don't adopt that report, then the directives will be of no consequence. That is why I'm putting the two together. That's why I said subject to. But you can go on.
Speaker, can the leadership approach the Speaker?
Yes, leadership.
Feeling I'm getting from my back does not signal that they have patience enough for further deliberation. Mr. Speaker, if my respected leader would agree, can we let Mr. Speaker conclude his directive and let's implement that and see how it goes. I believe there will be lessons learned out of that. Mr. Speaker, that is what I would suggest.
What I am seeking to do is not to bring finality to any matter. What I am seeking to do is not to disengage Parliament from continuing with the work. I want to formally put Parliament in the center of this matter so that Parliament will mediate, put a process in place to try, through our committees, to engage the stakeholders and resolve the outstanding issues. That's all what I'm trying to do. And the first and immediate benefit will be to calm nerves on the ground and prepare the people to receive our committees, to engage and discuss further with them. That is all what I'm trying to do. If the House thinks otherwise, I don't take decision. You take. I only guide the House. And based on what you say, I give directives. If that is what the House wants to do, I'm prepared to meet leadership. But please, as I mentioned earlier on, we still have work to do. We have only today. At the end of the day, we will adjourn sine die. Yes, Honorable Katie Hammond.
Mr. Speaker, I appreciate all that you just said, but the difficulty, Mr. Speaker, I also had was exactly what he was attempting to articulate, maybe in a different form altogether. Mr. Speaker, you have the report which you are not entirely happy with, hence all the directives that you're giving. So I thought he was suggesting that in view of that, why let us take a decision on the one that is not complete and which you are not happy with, rather than maybe hold on to it for the time being, let the leadership, the group, the committees that you've appointed to rectify what you consider to be anomalies and then incorporate the two. And then, Mr. Speaker, I think the House would
Honorable Katie Hammond.
Mr. Speaker.
If we don't adopt the report,
yes,
what will this subsequent committee stand on to go to the ground, visit the area, and engage? They will stand on this report that we have adopted as a House.
Mr.
It is
Speaker,
from that they will spring up
again,
to do the work.
We yield to your discretion.
Please. I don't seem to have your gray hair, but my length of stay here has given me some additional
That is
value.
why I quickly yielded. As soon as I realized that you were opposed to me, I quickly sat down. Got two things: senior at the university and senior here. The only difference is this, but this is natural.
Anyway, I'm not too sure. I'm senior in birth. I don't know when you were born. But at the university, I was senior to you.
Yes, I think, Mr. Speaker, it's a matter of public record. We can easily check. I think my hair is older than you, but I think in terms of age, you may be older than me. We can check the date of birth. I know you are older than me. Kwabra is older than me. Yes.
Anyway, this is on the lighter side. Honorable members, please, the records are clear. I finished my directive. I'll put the question for you to adopt the report. And based on that report, the other committees can engage because we've adopted what the committee has submitted to us. We have not rejected that report. Then they will build on what the committee has submitted to do further interrogation to the matter, further inquiries, and then we as the House will continue. When there's a need for any of the committees to report to the House, they will do so, and then we'll intervene. Particularly, I'm more concerned, you are for reviewing the approved agreements. It's not for us to. It's now in the hands of the executive. It's when the executives resubmit them, then we have the opportunity to have a second bite. But definitely, we'll assist both the investor and the indigenes to establish the area within which they could both operate. And then get them to understand that the investor company is not having 41,000 acres available. A lot of it has been taken away. We have to try to settle these differences. So I put the question, subject to my directives. Those in support of the adoption of the report of the committee, say aye. Those against the adoption of the report of the committee, say no. Honorable members, the ayes have it. The House has accordingly adopted the report of the committee subject to the directives I have delivered. We now move on to, yes, please. No, not closing yet.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as has been agreed, we move on to the Order Paper Addendum 2 and proceed to take Item 1, which is presentation of instrument 1A. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Deputy Majority Leader, I'm not aware of agreement on 1A. I don't know about leadership, whether you did agree on 1A. I'm aware of 1B, which we are presented already, but I'm not aware of 1A, which is dealing with education regulatory bodies, National Teaching Council Regulation 2024. I'm not aware of it. Leadership.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not aware of this regulation. I've only seen it on the other paper. Ideally, I would have cross-checked with the chairman of the subsidiary legislation, who happens to be a member of my side, and would have had some guidance before so that I can comment on the matter. But Speaker, as we speak, I've not done